Chris Voss gave me a huge 1 year's worth of subscriptions on Patreon, and I'm grateful to him for bringing you today's video. Akul the Unrepentant versus Malcator, Radagast, and Sarkhan. As is so often the case on Magic Online, we start with a 1-lander, so have to take the mulligan. And once again, a 1-lander, so we're going down a card here. Alright, and that's looking like a decent hand. So we'll roughly aim for a burn down the house, I think. And do we want to animate dead something after burn down the house? It's between animate dead and feed the swarm that we put back. Let's be risky and go feed the swarm going back to our library. Alright, and draw into an Urborg, I don't mind seeing that. So if we get into another red source, not only can we cast burn down the house, but we should easily be able to cast our commander as well, which does not use any colourless mana. All our opponents just getting out lands on turn 1 as well. There is a means of surveying here. Yeah, nothing to do on turn 2, so we might as well. It's surveil, isn't it? Not survey. And on top of the library is a Necropotence. I don't think I can say no to a Necropotence. Could play that next turn. Try and craft ourselves a better hand than the one we've got at the moment. A Kargan Dragonlord for the dragon player. Although noteworthy, this is a human warrior for some reason. Arcane Signet for the Azorius player. So we know that we're drawing into Necropotence here, meaning that we get down a land Necropotence, we'll have 5 cards left in hand. Nothing else to do on turn 3, so might as well get this down and we'll put a couple of life into the Necropotence. Might be that the green player can get rid of the Necropotence. We can dump life into it at instant speed though. And there we see a Wayfarer's Bauble and a means of making tokens in Sarkhan. So we don't actually have any creatures to cheat in with our commander at the moment. Maybe just concentrate on ramp next turn. Ruby Medallion will discount the red creatures, or red spells in general. And this has gone up to level 1. It needs to be at level 4 to gain flying and become a 4/4. And the Necropotence having the dragon swinging at us. Cultivate for the Simic deck. Anointed Procession for the Phyrexia deck, so gonna get double the tokens. Alright, we're up against 3 blue players here, so we can get down our commander while the blue players are tapped out, encourage some removal, and maybe exile a swamp from hand. Go for the Ancient Tomb, and then we can put 2 life into Necropotence again, get rid of a swamp, and maybe we get into a big creature. I'm just trying to discourage this thing from constantly coming in at us, but maybe we just have to take advantage of the ramp here while we've got access to it. Yeah, let's go for the Wayfarer's Bauble instead. Don't have to lose any lands from hand that way. 2 life into the Necropotence again. Not looking to go crazy with this enchantment, just want to keep my hand full really. Alright, got a Bitter Triumph now. I didn't put the life into the Ancient Tomb, so we don't have the mana held up for that, but Skull Clamp's nice, with something like Burn Down the House, although we'd want to keep the creatures to cheat something into play, but maybe just drawing more cards is better at this point, seeing as how we can't get into any creatures to actually cheat in at the moment. The first commander is Sarkhan, Soul of Flame, so depending on what our opponents do, it may well just be worth getting down Liliana next turn. Levelling this up to level 2, and again the dragon coming in at us, so yeah, if that continues to happen then we are going to be encouraged to get rid of it. Radagast coming into play will add credence to the idea that we should go for the Dreadhorde General. Malcator, Purity Overseer, a Phyrexian Elephant Wizard coming into play. So all 3 commanders hit play. And getting a couple of Phyrexians into play, so what's this, a 1/1? Will survive the Dreadhorde General, assuming that it gets through counter magic. Our opponent is tapping some more mana. That is a Cloud Shift, so going to flicker this, and that dissuades us away from the Liliana. So at that point maybe get down our 5/5 blocker so that players won't be as likely to swing into it. Could always go for Burn Down the House as well to deal 5 damage to everything, but it's our only means of tokens at the moment. And triggering at the end of the turn because 3 or more artifacts entered during this turn. So getting another couple of Phyrexian Golems. So maybe we do have to burn down the house here, unfortunately. Play a swamp. And we could go for burn down the house and then animate dead onto this thing. And then make a couple of tokens with that. But once again, have nothing to actually cheat into play, so yeah, we'll go for that play, I think. So that does blow up the board. We'll assume the commanders are going back into the command zone. And we will animate dead onto our only target just for the sake of having a body in play. And we have to put 3 life into Necropotence now, so we're almost halfway down with our life total. That's why I felt the need to go for burn down the house, because if those tokens came in at us, then we'd be pretty much done for, I think. Still not getting into anything. A couple of lands and a reassembling skeleton, so that'll go alright with the Skull Clamp at least. Think it'll be time for Liliana, Dreadhorde General next turn, although it depends if any flyers come down for Sarkhan. Frantic Search, draw 2, discard 2, untap the lands. Alright, seeing an Ansrag's Rampage and a Kindred Charge hit the bin, so I'm glad that we pulled the trigger on the Animate Dead already. Didn't get punished for that with this loot. Didn't untap his lands there. Okay, and then just does a Shame Scoop, awesome. Something tells me I'm not going to be uploading this one. But we will block this player. Our opponent able to get an additional mana for creatures from the Castle Garenbrig, throwing out a Roaming Throne. Throwing out the commander again, we'll not be able to trigger it at the end of the turn, so unless he gets a Sol Ring into play or something like that, we're assuming. So to be really annoying, we could go for Liliana here and tick down, but I mean we have to play around Magic Online players, and we've already seen a Shame Scoop here, so yeah, I'm not hopeful that Liliana will keep the game going. Alright, so throw down a swamp. We'll go for our commander finally, in the hope that we can make use of it at some point this game. And let's go for 2 life into this again against my better judgment, because that means that we can play and equip the reassembling skeleton and draw a couple, which means it's less life into the Necropotence. So we'll go up to 6 cards in hand here if this lands, and only have to put 1 life into the Potence, and it does land, so we draw 2. More mana, still no big creatures, so put a life into Necropotence and pass. No argument to be made for us putting more life into that. Let's go, let's try and just go a bit more aggressive. We'll go down to 20 life and we'll draw 4 with the enchantment. So we're down to half of our life total and we haven't really done much of anything yet. Our mana's looking alright at least. Alright, Cabal Coffers with an Urborg in play isn't the worst. It That Betrays is nice. Pitiless Plunderer, not the worst either. And an Erebrask's Forge, so we've got some decent stuff there. Have to discard 3, it's Arcane Signet, Swamp, and the Phyrexian Tower. These will get exiled thanks to the Necropotence's clause on discarding cards. So we'll have 8 mana off a Cabal Coffers next turn. Plus 3, 6 is 14. So we can go for this. Reanimate the reassembling skeleton and then cheat in It That Betrays. Maybe get down Pitiless Plunderer before then to do a bit of ramping as well. Entish Restoration is going to ramp ahead quite nicely, thanks to having full power in play. Beastmaster Ascension after that is going to sit there for most of the game until they can maybe get down an Avenger of Zendikar or something, but you would assume most of the tokens would come from the commander. I don't know if I've ever seen this commander. I lose track of the 57 commanders a week that come out nowadays. Alright, a Bronze Guardian now, so other artifacts have Ward 2 that you control. Power and toughness are equal to the number of artifacts, so that has double strike and it's a 4-5. See if these want to go wide on us. 3 cards left in each of our opponent's hands at the moment, but they're not dumping life into keeping cards in their hand. Alright, so we've kept our commander in play. We'll see what we can do here. Definitely get down Cabal Coffers. Put the life into the Ancient Tomb against my better judgment, so that we can make 8 mana with the Cabal Coffers. Play Pitiless Plunderer. Reanimate Reassembling Skeleton. And then we go for discarding Sir Kenzan finally. So that will get exiled, but it doesn't matter, we still get the effect. And we don't have quite enough mana to go for Liliana, unfortunately. If we hadn't gone for Pitiless Plunderer, we could. We'd be drawing cards here, but whatever, doesn't matter. Let's sacrifice 3 creatures, make some treasure tokens, and Akul goes on the stack, so we have to wait for that to resolve. And when it does resolve, we can put It That Betrays into play. We do have Grave Pact and Dictate of Erebos, and also this has Annihilator attached to it. So let's see here. Do we want Liliana in play? We can play Liliana. We could go for the Erebrask's Forge instead, so that we can go for Skull Clamp onto that. I think that's okay, because that triggers at the beginning of combat. So get the first 1/1 red Phyrexian horror. And I think we're best still holding back with the 5/5 just in case the 11/11 does go down. So we're at turn 7 and we're only just starting to do a little bit of something, but imagine how long it would have taken without the Necropotence. Skull Clamp onto the horror token. Makes a treasure with the Pitiless Plunderer, meaning the clamp paid for itself. Alright, and there is a Mana Crypt, which is tempting. Yeah, I think reassembling Skeleton and Clamp again. So once again, draw 2, make a treasure. Alright, just clearing a bunch of mana off the top. Been happening a lot in my Commander games recently. Let's go all out. Let's go Mana Crypt and do the Skeleton again. Equip it. Draw 2, make a treasure. Okay, and there is another means of making tokens at least. But yeah, cleared a lot of lands off the top. Yeah, I think we just hold up the Bitter Triumph and we can reanimate the Skeletons if needs be. So finally hand it over to our opponents. Got to not take any life to the enchantment at least. Got plenty of lands to discard to the Bitter Triumph now as well. Radagast back into play again. Master Splicer, that is a +1/+1 buff on golems. So this is now a 5/6, although it will get buffed by the golem that enters with the Master Splicer. So is now a 7/6 with double strike. And Ghostly Flicker going on to both the commander and this thing, so the commander will trigger at the end of the turn. More worried about the Bronze Guardian swinging in this turn, to be honest. Might have to throw our commander under it. So Malcator and Master Splicer each enter with a couple of golems. Currently 4/4, Ward 2. And this thing an 11/6. So cheating in an Eldrazi into play without haste, apparently not good enough. Yep, turning in at us. The 2/4/4s go to the left, so throwing away our commander, methinks. Damage being taken by the Simic player. So with first strike damage, commanders do die nowadays, so we will trigger the Pitiless Plunderer. Alright, and at the end step we will reanimate the Skeleton just for the sake of potentially skull clamping something. The Azorius Elephant Commander triggers as well, making a couple more golems. Alright, see if we can dodge the Lightning Bolt from Crypt after we risked getting it down this turn, or last turn. We do manage to win the flip. So player mounting, and Cabal Coffers is going to give us 3, 6, 9 mana. So I think we're fine to play that now. Allows us into Liliana, Dreadhorde General. Should maybe have gone for the Hellspur Posse first actually, because we want some sack fodder here. But we'll play it now. With the 1 floating mana, I'll be able to go for a Skull Clamp onto the Posse. And that way we'll draw even more. Again, dodging Necropotence now that it's swallowed half of our life. So throw that on there. Oh, actually, we only have to sacrifice 2 to this, don't we? Yeah, anyway. Might as well go after the Posse now anyway. So this opponent is just going to sack tokens, so we're not going to get anything from it, but we will get the Roaming Throne. So sacrifice Hellspur. Sacrifice Skellies, and if we do manage to get control of this, I'll probably name humans so that we get twice as many Pitiless Plunderer triggers. So draw 2 with Skull Clamp, draw 2 with Liliana, get 2 treasure tokens with the Plunderer, and gain control of not our opponent's commander, but we will gain control of the Roaming Throne. And yeah, we will name human because we have gained control of the Roaming Throne. Hopefully drawing some decent cards here. Just more mana in a Soaring. A Bloodghast is good with the Skull Clamp. Dreadhorde Invasion, way too late. So trade out Urborg for a Soaring. No reason not to play that here. Did draw into Tevesh Sat, Doom of Fools as well, so can make more chump blockers, which is probably going to be the play. Get down the Planeswalker. +2 on that for the Thrall tokens, just have to hope that there's no flying or evasion of any kind from this player. Alright, and that player decided to scoop, so I'm glad I didn't swing in with the It That Betrays yet. So we could go for Bitter Triumph onto this thing to remove the ward. That would be 4 mana, which we can afford at the moment. We'll go through to combat. I'm not going to swing in, I don't think. We do want to make a Forge token so that we can Skull Clamp that. So let's say they sack a couple of tap tokens. They've got plenty of power left to... It'll have to be 3 creature tokens that they throw in the way of this. And they'll get to keep one of them, so they're only losing 2 tokens. yeah, we'll just have to hold back for now, I think. So we're not going to get the double triggers with the Pitiless Plunderer anymore, unfortunately. We'll not make 2 treasure tokens with the Phyrexian token being blown up. We'll still draw the 3 cards and get a treasure though to replace what we spent on the Skull Clamp. Alright, that's more like it. Something like a Balrog, Durin's Bane. So how many permanents have we sacrificed this turn? Something that we'd need to keep an eye on if we were going to play this in paper form, but obviously Magic Online is going to keep track of that for us. Only costs 3 mana. It'll be 2 mana once we crack one of these. So we might as well get that into play, I suppose. And that still leaves us with the 4 mana for the Bitter Triumph if we want. So yeah, I think we're reasonably safe to leave it at that. Got into Junction as well in order to reanimate stuff. We'll just have to be careful with discard. And we have to discard hand size. We'll just make that the basic. We might get into Field of the Dead and Bloodstained Mire will be a bit more relevant. We've got Bloodghast as well. Fetches are good with that. So we're actually ramping better than we are cheating things into play with the Akul, unfortunately. Haven't seen too much use for this thing. Alright, so our opponent now looking to swing in, it seems. So there's an 11-6, which we don't necessarily have to take the damage to. There's 4 and 8 big creatures hitting us. We've got 4, 5, 6 and 7 to block with. So we're taking 4, 5, 6, which isn't the worst. Let's go Bitter Triumph. We can discard a card, go after this thing, and we'll discard the Dreadhorde Invasion, which is of no use to us, so that gets exiled by Necropotence as well. And do pay the ward cost on that, of course, so see with their 1 card in hand if that big double striker goes down. It does. So removing ward from them. So now we can go through to blocks and block all their biggest stuff, of course. Although argument to be made for going after this. Yeah, we'll see how we feel once blocks are declared. Yeah, I think it's best if we just block as much damage as possible. So we'll take the 6. Don't have any first strike, unfortunately, otherwise we could get rid of this thing and then only take 3 from each golem. So declare blocks, we're going to lose some creatures, but we'll draw some cards with the Liliana as well, and we'll get some treasure with the Pitiless Plunderer. Like I said, ramping nicely, but not cheating anything in really. So triggers go on the stack, we go down to 12, which is 4 lightning bolts from the Mana Crypt. Well, 2 lands so far with Liliana. Alright, there's an Overseer of the Damned, a Wheel of Fortune will refill our opponent's hand. Some mana with Gilded Lotus, we're not struggling on mana like I keep saying. So with those 2, let's go for, at the end step, Reassembling Skeleton again. Done some work for us this game. Still not drawing during the draw step though. Let's see if we dodge a bolt again. We do, so our good luck with Mana Crypt continues. So do we just have to draw as many cards as possible here? Probably a good idea to get our commander into play and try to cheat this out, I think, is a better use of our mana. Haven't made a land yet, so let's go for the Sulphurous Springs. Means we get more mana with Cabal Coffers this way. So Akul into play. We'll go for Beetleback Chief as well. I'd love to get into the Grave Pact or something like that. So let's try to cheat in the Overseer of the Damned. Sacrifice Reassembling Skeleton. Actually, before that, let's go Skull Clamp onto the Beetleback Chief because we're about to sacrifice that. Suppose we could tick up on Lily as well. Get rid of a zombie. Goblin tokens of more use to us with 1 toughness at the moment, I think. Yeah, so now we will go Akul, sack Zombie Token, Beetleback Chief, and the Skeleton. Draw 2 to Skull Clamp, 3 to Lily. Alright, and there is a Terror of the Peaks. So, we're looking pretty good there. It's a shame that we... and there is a Wand of Orcus as well, so now we're looking like we're getting somewhere, finally. So, do we cheat this in? Only costs us 2 additional mana to get that in, so... yeah, against my better judgment we will, just for maximising the amount of damage we deal. So now let's go Overseer of the Damned. And we'll take the damage to the Ancient Tomb because we want 6 damage, and I haven't worked any of this out properly. But we want 6 mana for the Wand of Orcus so that we can play and equip it. And does this need to deal damage to a player? Yeah, combat damage to a player, make that many 2/2 zombies. So Terror of the Peaks. How much damage can we deal this turn? If we get 11 zombies, that's 22 damage with the Wand of Orcus. I don't think it's enough, so we're just going to have to pepper these things, I think, which is unfortunate. Go after their tokens. Overseer of the Damned can destroy a Phyrexian Golem, and then we can tick up for a couple of Thralls onto the Tevesh Sat. Oh, actually, they're 0/1 tokens, aren't they? I thought they had 1 power. I was going to go Terror of the Peaks, 1 power, 1 power, but it doesn't matter. We can easily get more power onto the board here. So we'll go for that Wand of Orcus trick, I think. Always wanted to play with Wand of Orcus, and I've never found a deck for it, so hopefully our opponent will let us land this. And now we just look to turn in sideways, so our opponent's going to have to sacrifice some stuff. The Urabrask's Forge will enter as well for some more damage, so we'll use this to debuff with the 3 damage, I think it'll be. Yeah, Terror of the Peaks, Lightning Bolts, the Master Splicer. So, as ever, Terror of the Peaks making a difference here. That will trigger the Overseer of the Damned, making a zombie, which can get rid of the commander. So I've managed to turn the tide here, I think, hopefully. And that's another one gone down, so that just acts like a chain reaction until we run out of damage to deal to non-creatures or non-tokens. So I might as well bolt our opponent's face here, because can't get rid of a 3/3 with a shock. So now finally through to combat, and I do thank our opponent for playing it out. We'll go in with our big creatures, might as well go in with the Phyrexian token as well, because that's going to get exiled. Annihilator 2 and Wand of Orcus. Noteworthy that we could equip and swing in the Wand of Orcus at the Terror of the Peaks to give it Death Touch, and then start dealing a load of damage all over the place. And then it wouldn't matter about powers and toughnesses and all that. But we were lacking haste in this game. May well be that our opponent can wipe the board yet and wait for us to lose out to the Mana Crypt. Alright, so taking our opponent down to 17, so this should be it, I think, actually. So if we dealt all the damage directly to our opponent with all the creatures that entered previously, then we could have got there. But there we go, we see the bunch of zombie tokens that came in with the Wand of Orcus, and it's 2 damage to our opponent a bunch of times here. Yeah, so our opponent decides to scoop it up there, that's fair enough. I do appreciate him playing it out for that length of time. It was a cool deck that, I don't think I've seen this commander played before. And he did get a hell of a lot of Phyrexian tokens into play, so yeah, that's a fun one. Would consider building it myself if I thought any of you were interested in older commanders, but you don't tend to be, unfortunately, so hopefully you like this new one in Akul the Unrepentant, and I will see you all in the next one, I hope. Big thank you to the patrons for their financial support as ever. I'm tribalkai. Thank you for watching.